Hi everyone, welcome back to Cute Nerdy DIY. Today I'm going to be doing another Squishy Makeover, and today we're turning this milkshake cup into a Starbucks unicorn Frappuccino. I think this was one of my favourite ones I've done because it was so bright and colourful and I really enjoyed doing it. So to start with, I bought this squishy. I think this squishy cost me about £1 off. I think I bought it from Amazon, so it was really cheap. It took about a week to get here. But considering most squishies you buy in shops are about £5, this was actually really cheap. The shape of it was really good and I quite liked the drizzle on the top, and to be honest it was quite soft and squishy and the texture wasn't that bad, but I really wanted to give it a makeover. So again, for this DIY I haven't used Puffy paint, so instead I've used a mixture of acrylic paint, PVA glue and shaving foam. Not shaving gel, as that won't work as well, so make sure that you get shaving foam. So basically, if you put a small bit of paint in and then put about 6 times the amount of glue and then a tiny bit of shaving foam and mix that up. So to start with, I did everything white and my idea was to basically do a base layer to cover everything as well as I could. Now, even though I chose to do a unicorn Frappuccino, which are actually already pink, I thought it'd be best to do a base layer just to make sure that any of the air holes and anything underneath will be covered up. So luckily this was quite easy to paint because I had the little straw that I could hold on to whilst painting it. Make sure you do the layers quite thick and try your best to do the strokes neatly so that when it dries, if you see anything, it won't look too bad. Now, when I did this first layer, I didn't actually paint the bottom, I left that and I decided to paint that afterwards so that it could dry easily standing up. So as you can see, it's all dried now. It actually dried really fast because we've been having this heat wave, so it took a couple of hours. So the next step was to make another mixture. This time I used pink and I made that from basically just red and white, and then I needed to go around the cup part of the squishy. So for this bit I decided to use a lollipop stick as I thought this would get a really nice smooth finish, and basically the idea is to put it on quite thick if you can and make sure the strokes are neat again. I think squishy makeovers are probably my favourite type of squishy DIY to do because I think it's quite cool to see how you can kind of upcycle something and transform it into something nice. So once that had dried, it was time to do the blue. Now this kind of measurement of glue and everything that I use I found is the best one so that the paint doesn't crack and that it's not too dry. So for this I actually broke one of the lollipop sticks in half, which gave me a much thinner, more precise tool to work with. But basically all I did here was drew the squiggle on. Now I think you can put more on if you want, I just went with quite a thin line all the way around, and I did a few extra drizzles to show like that the blue was actually going through the pink. So once you've done that all the way around, stand it outside or in somewhere warm to dry. So I was actually quite happy with the white coat that I'd already done, so the next step after the blue and pink had dried was to draw the straw on. Now obviously most Starbucks cups all have the same coloured straw, which is just a green, so I went over that and that was really easy to do. Make sure you go over it in a couple of coats because one coat probably won't coat it very well. I think I went over this about 3 times. So the next step is to draw the circle on the front, which is the kind of like label type thing. Basically just do this in the same coat of paint that you've used for the straw. So I didn't draw any of this on beforehand, I just went straight in and guessed the shape of the circle, but basically I just kept making it bigger until I thought it was the right size in proportion with the rest of the cup. Again, with this it's good to go over this a couple of times to make sure it's covered up. Again, leave that to dry. Now luckily these layers of paint actually dry really quickly, so you don't have to wait around for days like you sometimes do with these makeovers, so that was quite cool. So what I basically did was I got my Posca pen and it was time to draw the Starbucks logo on. Now I'd recommend taking your time to do this because it's quite difficult and quite fiddly, and obviously because of the size it's quite small. So this bit took quite a while to do, but I thought I'd record it all and show you because I think it's quite cool to see it come together. Finally it's done, and I was so pleased with this, and I couldn't believe how well it turned out. And the last thing to do was to put all the little sprinkles on the top. So I noticed that it's more of a kind of spray that they put on the top of these, so the best way to do this was to get some sponge I had left over and basically dab that in some pink and blue paint. So if you save the paint that you used earlier, that's a good way to do it, but basically all I did then was just dab that on top. I think this way was really effective, and I was actually really happy. Like, I couldn't believe how well that actually turned out, so that was really cool. And basically leave that to dry, and when you're ready you can start to squish it. So I absolutely love my Totoro one, but I've got to admit this one was so satisfying to finish, and I was honestly so pleased with it. And also, when I actually went to squish it, I was really happy with how that turned out, and I think it became a bit more slow rising than it was before. And luckily none of the paint came off, which is always a worry when you do squishy makeovers, so that was really cool. But yeah, enjoy!